Let's turn to our last topic, which is the untimely death of Kelvin Kiptum. Now, this was for me. This was it's a name I almost didn't recognize. Calvin Kiptum, as I understand it, is the guy that is going to be, if anybody he would have been the guy that cracked 2 hours for the marathon, which again is so out of my world. The notion of running a marathon itself is just so out of my world that I'm not there. And it seems, and you can probably correct me and get the details right on this, he had a car crash back home in Kenya, and he's gone. Is that the nuts and bolts of it, Steve?
Well, because Eliud Kipchoge has been the GOAT of marathon running, and who ran a sub 2 hour marathon under certain conditions, which wasn't a world record. We thought that'll never happen. And then suddenly a young man comes along who's running 250 Ks a week training and runs three marathons in his first 3 marathons. They're 3 of the fastest 7 marathons ever run. And his last marathon was the world record at Chicago, 2 hours.
And he's for real, right? This is the real deal. Yeah.
Real deal. And everyone's looking to him to set the pace because there's no one coming up behind other than that. But I guess the key for
literally as well.
He's got.
I didn't want to miss that one.
Second. Yeah. Suddenly, minor car accident, slide on road, into ditch, into tree. He and his coach are dead. And the key is the shock, right? It's how I felt, even though it's lost in the memory hole just pre-COVID. Kobe Bryant dying.
I was going to say Bryant, and actually the other one that I was thinking about was actually I can remember when Princess Diana died. I've been rewatching The Crown online and just reliving, and I remember that moment and actually being awake at 4 a.m. for some reason on a Sunday morning and listening to the news in the UK and going, she's dead, and just going,
that cannot be, right?
It's wow.
Yeah,
it's just
that's the point, isn't it?
And it's not like our parents dying, which I know is something that you and I have grappled with recently. That's awful, but you kind of get it. So what is it about not just young people, but famous, relatively young people? Well, now more people are younger than us, but what is it about them dying that actually just grips us so much?
Well, death. The beautiful, young and gifted should live on, because in our minds we're saying that beautiful, young and gifted sort of gives you the right at one level to keep going. But death like that stops us in our tracks and makes us think about our own death. There's a reason why when someone died young in the past and they had a memorial for them, it was a column that was cut off, shattered, because it's saying this should not be. This should not happen.
Parents don't bury their children,
Yes, and I think, to be honest, as I've reading the athletics world, it's the shock and the sheer disbelief at that, not simply because he was, his world record was ratified 5 days before his death by Lord Sebastian Coe, the great British runner, who, if he died today, you'd go, terrible, world record holder, but he had a good innings. He was 70s.
Well, he had a good run, you might.
He had a good run, much shorter.
I would like to do that, Steve, I don't know.
But it's also, when you go back to a public figure and you realise that he was about to run another marathon in April and he was looking to break the world record on a fast course or break the 2 hours on a fast course, and you read his hopes and goals and dreams and suddenly they're gone. It's the goneness of it.
Yeah. And he was dedicated. I've been reading a couple of the news articles about him, and this is the guy who's, I think we've got to say, his kids didn't get as much time with him as maybe they should have done, because he's like, actually, no, I've got to go and do another training session, and I got to.
He had a 24-year-old with a wife and 2 children, and that's obviously Kenyan. So he's, the average Western athlete who's 24 isn't thinking of marriage till they retire, right, in their early 30s or whatever. Generally, not always, but suddenly he's gone. He had 2 kids, and he has a wife and kids who are a widow, and kids who've got no dad now, just like that.
Yeah.
And now. This is the thing, though. In sub-Saharan Africa, death is the everyday occurrence, whereas for us it's a shock and it shouldn't happen. But you speak to enough people who've either worked as aid workers or missionaries in those parts of the world, death is the fact of life in their experiences. But this is a shock because it shouldn't happen to the young, the gifted, the beautiful, and it does. And I think it's a timely warning for us. All death should do like that is make us think about our own mortality, because we don't. We sort of mask it with overseas trips and white goods.